Mankind. When mankind ventured out into space, we never suspected what was to come. Our first inhabited planet was less than 30 light years away, far closer than we would have thought. The issue? Everyone was dead. The entire planet was like that, a perfectly stable world with no issues that we could determine, and yet it seems the suicide rates were the greatest cause of death among the people. We don't know why, but apparently they've been doing this for some time. Years of study later showed that a reptile-like race had taken nearly 10 times as long as we did to reach the industrial age, and had not got very far beyond that. Time went on, and we soon discovered that this was not an isolated occurrence. Species after species had killed each other and themselves off for one reason or another. Some had died off so early that only a few stone monuments marked that they had ever been there. Some established empires spanning nearly a dozen systems. But always, they were all dead, down to the last child. And so, we travelled the stars, colonizing the lost homeworlds we found, along with others. We studied the creatures on many worlds, although none bore intelligent life. In time, we studied the technology of the more advanced dead races, gleaming a scientific secret or two that we had missed. It was rather amusing to see the scientific community collectively slap their heads when they see the simple ideas and concepts that they had missed. Once, and just once, we found a sentient race still alive. On a planet with 3/4 the gravity of Earth, a planet primarily dominated by jungles, bore a race of insect-like scavengers. They were barely beyond the Stone Age. Farming and agriculture was still in its early days. We considered making contact, but in the end decided against it. They were a very violent race, and many would kill one another for the smallest detail. Suicide seemed to be something they would resort to with little or no good reason. In fact, the entire race seemed insane. Long-term observations showed that after hatching, the individual would slowly but surely go insane, to the point where none reached old age. In fact, the only reason this race has not yet gone extinct is a combination of high birth rates, short lifespans, and children being able to defend themselves hours after birth. In any other race, this bizarre affliction can, and did, drive them to extinction. For nearly 700 years, mankind grew and expanded. We did not find another living race during that time, or found out how we were immune. We came up with many theories, but none fit better than any others. Ethnic, religious and cultural differences became less important when you were away from Earth, and in the end, those who could not agree simply lived on different worlds. The UTA, United Terran Alliance, controlled over 87% of mankind's colonies from its seat of power on Earth. A few rogue factions cropped up. Piracy and smuggling saw a rebirth in this new space age, and mankind went on as it always had. Then a moment that would change our history came. The UTA's Dreadnought-class ship, Supremacy, was in essence a city in space, constructed with our most advanced technology, to the point where systems were updated even during construction, and having a length of nearly 7 miles, it was the mightiest ship we'd ever created. Supremacy was sent to investigate a new world our long-range sensors show had space-age technology upon it. It was farther out than we'd ever travelled before, but not by much. It was assumed that this would be just another dead world, that we might be able to find some usable raw materials, pre-harvested in the form of abandoned constructions in orbit. What we found was an outpost of a space-faring race, its people still alive and well. Dozens of ships were in orbit around an empty rocky world. along with a space dock to repair and refuel them. They were remarkably primitive compared to our own, and much smaller. The largest, perhaps, was the length of a football field, if that. From scarring and damage, along with a derelict ship floating nearby, of a different make, they had been fighting not too long ago. Our first contact did not go so well, however. We would later piece together what happened, and it went something like this. As soon as what might have been, at the time, the largest spaceship in the galaxy appeared on top of them, the race known as the Condor was sent to the edge of the parsec. The commander tried to keep a disaster from occurring and ordered his ships not to open fire. Communication, however, on both sides failed. We ourselves had long ago stopped carrying any equipment or training our crew for first encounters, and apparently, the Condor had not had any first contact of their own in hundreds of years. It also didn't help that our subspace communications were just advanced enough that the garbled words the poor Condor picked up on their outdated system, sounded horribly sinister and alien, even by the wide standards of the galaxy as it is now. One of the Condor gunmen on the closest ship had a panic attack after hearing the garbled transmission. He fired upon the Supremacy, which in a placating gesture had lowered its shields. The shot was able to breach the hull at a single point and cost the lives of 3 crewmen. The captain of the Supremacy ordered the shields raised and fired a warning shot. Unlucky for the Condor, the concept of warning shots was alien to them, and they did not stop to ask why a single shot had missed. It was a short fight. The Supremacy blew away a single craft to secure its escape. A sad but necessary tactic. This only hurt our reputation further with what happened later. As we soon discovered, nearly 3% of the galaxy was on part of what was known as the Veil of Madness. Any race within this sector of space would slowly, but surely, go insane. Short jaunts were safe enough, but more than that, and permanent damage to the mind would result. We had apparently been sitting in the galactic equivalent of the Bermuda Triangle, and had finally breached its edge, when the Condor realised that both our entrance and escape vectors lead directly into the Veil. A panic started. With surprising speed, news spread among their people and among others of what had happened. The story grew worse with each retelling, especially once it left official military reports. Tales of the Titanic black ship that came from beyond the Veil sent out signals in a horrid dark language, obliterated dozens of the Condor's finest warships in seconds for no reason, and then vanished like a ghost, soon spread everywhere. Humanity had become the boogeymen of the universe. Raids from pirate groups further cemented our dark reputation, and in time we came to work with the role. Every attempt to convince people that we wanted fair negotiation was seen as deception. Rather than fight a losing battle, we played to the role given to us. Soon we were seen as wicked but not unreasonable, and gained both fear and respect throughout the galaxy. Few humans appeared in the view of aliens outside the deliberately frightening power armor, and human ambassadors used voice synthesizers to sound like that first garbled communication had. Looking back, it actually worked in our favour. After years of contact, most alien races know almost nothing about humans other than exaggerated horror stories. They rarely bother us, and the ones that do never return home. The only bit of info we were more than happy to share with them was the reason that we can live in the Veil. Turns out we were all a little crazy to start with. I think the fact we were pulling the largest practical joke in the galaxy was already proof enough of that.